Hey people, what's going on? It's Friday the 30th, the eve of New Year's Eve. Cheers. Well, neither of them were musicians, but I will mention them because there was an impact on me personally. Pele, who just passed away, rest in peace. I wasn't a soccer fan, but I, being a person who pays attention to world events as much as possible throughout my life, it was real obvious the importance of Pele to Brazil and the world recognizing Brazil. Um, I had it and I misfiled it already, but my friend Carol Rogers from Omaha was with Sergio Mendes Brazil 77 for 20 years. And one of the albums they made, I have it, I had it and I misfiled it. I'm so embarrassed. But Pele posed for the cover of the album with the band. So I worked with Carol, and when we when I was working with her, I picked her brain about a lot of things, working with Dori Kaimi and having Pele on the record cover and stuff. And so just good memories, and just kind of that 6 degrees sort of thing where, well, I know someone who met and worked with Pele. And then Vivienne Westwood is an important figure regarding the whole late 70s change in music with punk and her involvement in London with Malcolm McLaren in her shop and the clothes. Once again, I never met her, but I worked with Jeanette Beckman, who is a photographer who is from England and was friends with Vivienne Westwood. And Vivienne would come up in our conversations a lot. She really admired Vivienne. And so I just want to just mention them and just rest in peace, folks. People really enjoyed me showing those records yesterday, Deep Purple. And, I appreciate folks sharing your thoughts with me. Just remember, folks, our thoughts are just opinions. No one's opinion is right. And I pick up in people's words. It's like, well, each of us likes what we like. No one is God when it comes to the arts and music. We like what we like, and so sharing opinions is that's all it is. But we really need to be okay with it. Because I say it all the time here. I've been on here for years. I keep telling you, I'm just telling you what I like and how it looks to me. I'm not telling you how to think or what at all. I know I present information to a lot of folks that they didn't know about music, but I'm not telling you what to think. So I want to thank Bill McHugh right away because Bill asked me would I be interested in talking to Percy Jones, the bass player. He had a connection. Someone offered me some other people, and I said I wasn't so interested. Percy Jones, I'm interested in, and made the connection. And I'm scheduled to interview Percy this afternoon. He is a world class, phenomenal bass player who first came to people's attention in general through Brand X with Phil Collins. But his history goes back further. The oldest thing I have of him with him on is the Liverpool scene, which I intend to ask a little bit about. He's in the same class as Jaco Pastorius and any of the great bass players. In some ways, he may have. Oh my God, I'm so sorry how that goes in the morning, people. It's just the way it goes. I just woke up, my body's adjusting, I'm drinking coffee. It responds like this. But I think that Percy Jones is in the same class as Jaco Pastorius, might even have more going because he's still alive, which means all this time he's been developing his technique. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like maybe if Jaco was still alive, he'd be doing some really incredible things. But Percy Jones plays the bass like no one else, and his contributions are large. I only have some of the stuff he's on, but I intend to ask about some of the stuff if I get a chance. You know, he came up when I was talking to Richard Barbieri, because he's on several Richard Barbieri albums. He's on this one, Under a Spell. Percy is on Things Buried by Richard Barbieri. Barbieri is one of my favorite musicians. He really is. He's on here to great effect. Planets and Persona, Barbieri. And he's also on Variants number 3, Barbieri. So if there's a time, I want to ask him about that. But I'm also curious about his work with Brian Eno. To me, when I think about this album, the first thing I hear is Percy Jones bass, not Brian Eno. How about that? I want to ask about that. He's also worked. I have most of the Brand X albums, most of them. But he's also worked with David Sylvian. He's on this. He's also on Words with the Shaman, which I think is incredible. This is just a really fantastic piece of music. And he's on here. So curious to his thoughts about that work. Work with Jon Hassell. Percy Jones is just an amazing bass player and has worked with some great musicians. So I'm really looking forward to meeting him this afternoon and having a chat and see how it goes. Hello family. Hello, family. So I'm just about straight on my water heater. Should be getting it installed this weekend, hopefully. Oh, you know, everything is so complicated these days, you know. It seems like the bottom line for services is making sure they get the money and worried about the money more than the service. And it's just really, from my point of view, it's just really just disappointing that the world is just, to me, just always falling apart, or it's an illusion of what we said we wanted it to be, especially when I was a kid in the 60s, is not what it is now. It's an illusion. Things are really in disarray. So hopefully I'll have hot water by next week. Okay. I bought a water heater and, you know, so, I won't go into the details. A little frustrating. It's getting taken care of. Chuck Berry. I wanted to mention, I forgot that. So I ended up watching the rest of the Chuck Berry documentary. Very good. I'm glad I watched it. It's just one documentary. But I thought to myself, I'm glad this was made, because I kind of suspected all along that Chuck Berry was being mishandled and unfairly treated by the mainstream white media. Portrayed him as a, you know, kind of a creepo. And you look at his long marriage with his wife, his kids, the backstory to these allegations, then you find out what supposedly probably really happened. And then to see Chuck Berry speak for himself, it's like he's been slighted all these years. He has been done wrong. He's a decent guy. And I fully understand how he had a chip on his shoulder when it came to the Rolling Stones and the younger white musicians. Fully understand that, you know. So the other thing I wanted to share, another 6 degrees, is first off, Chuck Berry cited as one of his inspirations was T-Bone Walker. Now, I don't know the details, but I know that my dad played with T-Bone Walker. I don't know if he was in the band for just a minute. I don't know if my dad just got up and jammed with him. I don't think that's the case. It sounds like my dad gigged with T-Bone Walker for a time. Might have even toured with him. T-Bone Walker was one of Chuck Berry's major influences to play the guitar. My dad played with T-Bone Walker. And then my older brother James played with Chuck Berry. I don't know for how long, but I remember my brother James talking about it. He was on the road with Chuck Berry for a time. It was chaotic. It was pretty miserable. They never rehearsed. My brother didn't need it because they're just playing those old songs. It's like if you don't know Chuck Berry, you don't know rock and roll. There's a lot of truth to that sort of statement. Okay, so my brother played with Chuck Berry. So 6 degrees of separation, as they put it. Chuck Berry was probably the first music to touch me as a child. My parents tell me Chuck Berry, Everly Brothers, and Little Richard, and in that order. Because they said the other song that I would go crazy over, besides School Days, was "Wake Up Little Susie." I still have the copy, my dad's copy. It's white. You can't even hear the music. Little Richard, my favorite uncle, gave me Little Richard's debut album when I was like 5 or 6. It just blew my head open. His voice, the music, life changing. So I really enjoyed the Chuck Berry. I really do, and I respect you folks. John, you were talking about you're really into the Who, and so I reviewed in my head. I know what I like. And Deep Purple and the Who are two different bags totally. I like Deep Purple better. I do. Whether or not the Who is a cut above or not really doesn't matter, because what I'm listening to is when I'm listening to it, I'm listening to it. Okay, do you see what I'm saying? Whatever we feel about music when we're trading um, opinions and stuff, it's just that we're just sharing our thoughts, but our experience is still always ours. So if you come over and I talk about an artist and it maybe doesn't quite agree with you, it's no big deal. We're individuals. It doesn't take away from your experience, or I don't know why it would. It's part of the way the world is. Okay. All right. Looking forward to talking to Percy this afternoon. I'll talk to you people later.